To those with migraine.
Alright, y'all, I'm here at the movies. I'm here to see Heretic. You're going to see what it's about. It's just like a preview still. So we didn't get started yet. So I'll be back on in a minute.
Through the religion I've been packing into my brain for the best part of a decade. Every sect, cult, creed, denomination all claim to be the one true doctrine, and yet none seem true when held under a microscope. So I wonder what else was out there. I promise you, the last thing I wanted to do was find the one true religion. But unfortunately, I did. Of course, yes.
She just has to be present, and we want to meet her as well.
I'll go ask. Die.
It was amazing. I'm doing my review. Alright, y'all. This may be a long one. I'm not sure. I just got out of seeing the movie Heretic. It was awesome. Okay? Awesome in a scary way. Okay? And I don't like scary movies. Okay? But it was very suspenseful. So Heretic, oof. I'm actually going to pull up the Wikipedia. I know I just saw it, but to get on my character straight, I need to know their names. So, it was so good. It was so good. Do I want to see it again? No. But it was really good. Where is my phone? Oh, here it is. So let's pull up the Wikipedia. Turn this car off. Excellent, though. Excellent. I have so many thoughts. Like, I have so many thoughts. Because I am a child of religion, right? I've been approached by Latter-day Saints. Okay, so it's Heretic. It's a 2024 American psychological horror. Okay, it stars Hugh Grant, which plays Mr. Reed, and then there are two Mormon missionaries, which is they're not well-known actresses, but they did a really good job. So I'm guessing we'll be seeing them again. So the two Mormons are Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, okay? Their personalities are starkly different. Sister Barnes is more like dark-haired young woman who's been, preaching to people. She's, converted about 8 to 9 people. Sister Paxton it seems like she's a little bit more new in some ways. She hasn't, converted anyone, and they're talking in the beginning about like Sister Paxton was talking about, they were talking about like at the very beginning when it opens, they're talking about like penis size doesn't matter, and like they seem to be almost virginal in a way. So anyway, they're trying to preach to people. No one's really wanting to talk to them. And at some point, these girls pulled down Sister Paxton's pants, showing her underclothes, but it wasn't regular underclothes. It was almost like long johns, like under her skirt. But it was still under her pants, but it was still humiliating, I think was she had on a skirt? Yeah, I think she had on a long skirt. So anyway, they pulled her skirt down and revealed that she had like longer underwear on. But it was humiliating. But they get to Mr. Reed's house. Mr. Reed has actually requested more information. Okay, so they get to the house, And they ring, they knock. He takes a while to get to the door. He gets to the door, and they said they can't come in. They can give him information. They can talk to him at the door, but they need to actually, there needs to be a woman present for them to come in. So he's saying his wife is here, she'll be out, whatever. So they go in, they sit down, and he starts these questions about religion or whatever. So he asks them questions about, like, a man having more than one wife, and, different things like that. And they really, like, Sister Barnes, like I said, she's not as new. So she was like, look, the founder of the Latter-day Saints, he figured that there wouldn't be a need to continue with a man having more than one wife. And Mr. Reed is like, well, maybe he basically goes into this. I don't not have a lot of information about the founder of the Latter-day Saints, but Mr. Reed had said something about, like, he had this revelation, and maybe it was his way of, kind of doing what he wanted to do, with different people. So basically, so he's, he's actually done a lot of research. He really didn't need those young girls there. He really didn't. But he's, like, playing this game with them, like, how much do they know about religion, right? So he leaves out. They're like, look, we really should be going, if there's no woman, we basically got to go. He's saying his wife is shy. She'll be out with the blueberry pie. So he leaves out. And then as he leaves out, come to find out the candle, like, he had them guess, like, what do you think is like in the oven? Like, what kind of pie is it? And Sister Paxton, like, she's like the blonde hair, like the newer one. She's really soft and sweet, She's like, blueberry pie, whatever. But Sister Paxton, she actually, Sister Barnes actually looks at the candle on the table, and the candle is blueberry scented. So it's actually no pie, okay? Or if it is a pie, it's not what they smell, okay? So, but yeah. So they're like, look, should we go? Should we get out of here? He took their coats to the back. Like, I need my belongings. Like, they had their bag, but they didn't have their coats. And the key for their bike locks are in their coat. So, yeah. So while he's in the back, they go to the front door and they can't get out. The door's stuck, okay? So he tells them, basically, like, he tells them, like, to go down, like, his wife is there or whatever. They go down the hall, they get their jackets, and they're like, well, we need your help because the door's stuck. He said, well, that door is not going to open. He said he got a timer on it, and the time has already passed for that door to be unlocked. So they got to choose a door. Belief, disbelief. And he goes into this, he talks about, like, how the story of Jesus is not a new story, which I've heard the same thing. Like, the story of Jesus goes back as far as, like, Egyptian days, and there's also, I want to say not Confucius. There's other, like, I guess deities of sort that have had, like, a birth story similar. And Sister Barnes ain't going for it. She was like, look, although there's similarities, there are a lot of things that you have left out. Okay, there's similarities, but the whole story is not the same, right? So he basically tells them to pick a door of belief or disbelief. Sister Paxton, our blonde haired girl, she's like, okay, let's just go to disbelief and let's just be on our way. And Sister Barnes is like, no, I'm going into the belief side, right? So, and she, makes his argument, and Sister Paxton joins her on the belief side. But both steps lead to the basement. Okay? They both lead to the basement. So, he's like, look, pick a step. He said, I promise you, you can, whatever you decide, it leads out. Because his house is on a hill. He's basically saying, in order to get out, you have to go down. Okay? So, he got them past the living room. Or the entry, like the greeting room or whatever, parlor room. He got them past this long hallway into this study of sorts with all his library books. He starts talking to them about religion, and Monopoly, and how it's basically the same. How there was a game before Monopoly that before it became Monopoly was Monopoly, but the person, I guess whoever, I forget the people that bought Monopoly, they actually changed the name and made it where it's so commercialized, right? So it's basically saying like first religion was Judaism, and then the offset of that, which was the original Monopoly, I forget the name of it. It was called the Game of something, I forget. But anyway, that first original game, and then Christianity was like the watered down version, the commercialized version, which is Monopoly. And then he had a different Monopoly, was like the updated Monopoly, which is Islam, right? So he basically showed that he told them that they're Mormon, the Book of Mormon, he put it on top of the Holy Bible and said this is like every version is a watered down version. So he said he searched and he tried to find the one true religion, and he gives him this whole little speech. But sister, what's her name, Paxton? Sister Barnes is like more like, she's more experienced, I guess, with his type or whatever, and she's done more research of her own, I'm guessing too. So sister, he does ask some things about themselves when they were in that little parlor room in the very beginning. And so he asks like where they're from and how they grow up. And so Sister Barnes, like I said, are dark haired, like more experienced preacher, or I guess shall I say witness. Okay. So she is more like, she came originally from Philadelphia to Utah. She raised by a single mom after her dad passed, and he died of Lou Gehrig. Okay. Blonde-haired girl was raised in Ogden, Utah, which we know is the birthplace of the Latter-day Saints. And so, like they have, different backgrounds, but they still came to the same place, I guess, as far as religion. Okay. So, but yeah, so anyway, they decide to go down together. Okay. They go down to the steps of belief. Okay. And they go down these steps and come to find out there's a circular basement room and there is no exit. Okay. So he locks them down in the basement. Okay, now they're in the basement. Okay. So in the basement there is a woman wrapped up in a really, really dirty woman wrapped up in garb of sorts. And she has this pie, and she's like, face is all dirty or whatever. And she eats the pie, and he tells them over intercom that they're going to witness a resurrection. Okay? So she eats the pie, and he has them check her pulse and make sure she's dead. And then he tells them that they're going to be witnesses for him to witness her resurrection. Okay? So while they're looking through, like, there's like this little, like, ports of sorts in the wall. And while they're looking through it or whatever, a bell rings. So someone from their church is looking for them. And he's been, like, going to these different places trying to find them or whatever. So he ends up at his house. So while the bell rings, they're like deciding to scream or whatever, but how he has them so far down deep into this house, their screams it doesn't even resound on the outside. So the pastor or preacher that's looking for them from their church, he basically tells them they're not there, they never came, and he leaves. Okay. So they decide to get these matches or whatever, that he dropped on the floor. They can still, like, they go up the steps to like the basement door. They can see that round room, the library study room, and there were matches on the floor. So they actually pull the carpet to the door and get a couple of matches. So while they're trying to do their thing, apparently there was some kind of a resurrection of sorts, but it's really not a resurrection, right? But there's some kind of resurrection, and Sister Barnes is on it. She was like, like, there's no way, she moved or whatever. So it's supposed to be some kind of, like, he kind of, Sister Barnes is like, she says probably that you are causing her to have anoxia, like when your brain loses, like, like for her to lose some kind of consciousness, and when she comes back it almost seems like she's reciting miracles, or like she's been on the other side of death, when she probably hasn't. She probably just have experienced some kind of form of brain damage or whatever. So oh, I forget to mention, so she actually Sister Barnes actually gives Sister Paxton a one of those, it's like a letter opener, like, one of those, if you ever worked in the office, they have these really long, like the old school ones, they have these really long letter openers where you kind of slice it up through an envelope. So let's say, for example, this is an envelope and it goes in and it slices out, so that way you don't have to use your finger, get paper cuts, so you don't have to cut anything. You can slice it through. It's almost like a dagger. It's really, really pointy. So she gives her one from the study, and she was like, look, he watching me too hard, because like I said, she's the more serious one, she's the more experienced one. He's watching me too hard, because Sister Paxton is kind of, like I said, blonde hair, she's a newbie, she's fresh, so she's like, look, you need to do it because he's watching me too hard. So she gives it to Sister Paxton. Okay, so while he's talking to Sister Barnes, he's in the middle between Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton. And Sister Barnes is basically saying, like, it's probably, that, like, you're giving her something to imitate that she's dying when she's not. And, she's probably just experiencing some kind of hallucination. And Sister Paxton puts that dagger up. Well, we think it's the dagger up. And all we see is, blood, right? So I'm thinking she got Mr. Reed. No, Mr. Reed he slices Sister Barnes on the neck. And she starts bleeding out. He stabs her with a box cutter. Okay? And she starts bleeding out. And then he stabs through her arm. And he finds an implant and said that she's some kind of a clone or alien or something. And Sister Paxton is like, it's probably just birth control, and so she starts, like, you could tell she's like transforming. She's like, this is like life or death. Okay. And so basically Sister Paxton tells him, he said, you don't believe that you saw a resurrection? And she was like, at first I did, but I think that we were distracted. We heard the bell ring, and while we were, while we went up the steps, someone came in, took the other person out who was supposed to be resurrected, and someone else sat there and pretended that they were her that was resurrected, but it wasn't her. And so he's like, okay, and she was like, well, I think that what I think was that there was a mistake, because you did not suspect that the person, because the lady was saying something I can barely understand, but she basically said something like, it's not real. So you didn't expect the person that actually talked to us, that she didn't go by the script, because she was saying at the end, it's not real. Okay. So basically, Sister Paxton put two and two together, and she was like, yeah, you must have played some kind of a trick or whatever. So he said, well, if it's not real, then what, how do we get out of this room? So she finds out that underneath the table, there's a card table in the basement. Under the card table, under some dirt and some mud, there's another trap door. He said, well, there's only one way to find out. You want to go down to find out? She goes down. So she's deeper into the house. So she goes deeper into the house. She goes through, like, there's another set of rooms in this deeper part of the basement. I should mention something. Sister Paxton had made this statement that if she were to come back, and if she were to die and come back, she said she wanted to be a butterfly, and the people that she loved, she would land on their fingers so that they would know it was her coming back. So Sister Paxton goes into this darker, deeper room in the basement, and she sees women in cages. So apparently he's done this before. There have been other people that have home visitors that have come to the house, right? Maybe they were Latter-dayers, maybe they were other religions that came and did some home visits, okay? But yeah, they were in cages. All women, they were in cages. And she's like, I'm gonna get y'all some help. And basically he's like, what do you think now? And she basically told him what she thought. She was like, you moved our bike, because he took a long time. They were in the like parlor area, like when they first came in for a while. Like he was taking a long time. So she was like, look, you probably took our bikes so no one can find them. You switched up the keys, because Sister Paxton's keys, her key was in Sister Barnes' bike key was in Sister Paxton's pocket. So he was like, she was like, you must have moved our bike. She put the wrong key in the wrong pocket. And you act like we had a choice, but we really didn't. You kind of just led us to this situation. So he basically was like, yes, religion is all about control. Basically, that's what he was they were like puppets, He gave them choices when they really didn't, but it seemed like they had a choice, right? So he was basically saying that his little game with them was almost like what religion does to people. And so it's clear he was not planning on letting her out at all. It was clear, because he had probably never let these other women out. So I was like, but while he was talking, homegirl had that little dagger, that little letter opener, and she got him in the throat. And she started running, okay? She runs out, but she can't get out. She can't figure it out. So before she can get out, she's back in the basement part where the card table is. She's back in that room with dead Sister Barnes, and he stabs her in the stomach with the box cutter. So she's bleeding out, and he's on the basement steps, and he's like, pray for us. And so she says, there have been studies that show that people that are terminally ill, they have people pray for them, and it doesn't work. People had the same outcomes as people that didn't pray for them. But it's just very nice to have someone pray for you. So she starts praying, and while she's praying, he's crawling to her with his box cutter, trying to do her in again. But before he could get her, Sister Barnes smacks him good. She smacks him good on the side of his head. And Sister Barnes got the blow, okay? And Sister Paxton, she says goodbye to Sister Barnes, and she is able to get out. She gets out through this window that was covered up. She throws her phone out. She throws her phone out first. That way she can have a place to, call someone, because the house is metal, so there was no signal coming through. They couldn't even call anybody. All they could use was their phone in that basement, because he had closed the door, wasn't no light down there. So anyway, she gets out, and when she gets out, it's morning time, and a butterfly lands on her hand. So that's, I think, a sign that she was reborn. Remember, she said that if I ever came back to life after I died, I will come back as a butterfly. She actually came back as herself, I guess, as a butterfly. It was very symbolic. So it was really, really good, and it was sad at the same time. But these are my thoughts, because I was like, it's going to be a long one. I'm going to talk about the movie. Of course, see the movie. I cannot tell y'all every single thing that happened. I'm not that good verbally, obviously, right? But go check it out. It's definitely worth seeing, okay? If it comes on TV, I may watch it again, but I would not want to see it again, because it was very, draining emotionally, because it took you through all the motions, right? Emotional for me particularly, because I have experience with religion, okay? And these are my thoughts. As a person that grew up in religion, with the person that grew up in a very controlled environment, with the person that did not grow up celebrating any holidays, who grew up going to services Tuesday night, Thursday night book study in someone's house, Sunday morning, and then kind of things change in my family. So sometimes my family, when they were really doing good, they were more heavier. And then sometimes when they were really busy or they were having some of their own turmoil, we didn't go as much. But for the most part, I grew up in a certain religion, which y'all know which one if y'all follow me, right? So, and then when I became a teenager, it was more or less got a little bit more rebellious, stopped going as much, and then I went every here and there, and I've been to the memorial a couple of times as an adult, maybe a few times in my adult life. So this is the thing though, as much as I will say that I'm not religious, I still believe, right? And so it seemed like Mr. Reed, his focus was religion, right? And so Sister Paxton made this statement earlier on. It's about, like, of course, you can do a lot of research and studies, and you can say that there's reasons why people shouldn't believe, right? And that's why I feel like I'm so balanced, because I don't swing this way or this way. I can't say that I'm religious. I also can't say that I'm agnostic, or I can't say that I don't believe anything at all, right? But I can say I land right in the middle somewhere, because I feel like it counts. I think religion counts. Some people need it. Some people need to have set rules to follow. They need to have some kind of a structure. Some people, they feel better not believing in anything. Some people believe in, things in between. I'm more or less someone that I still believe in God for the most part. I just don't believe in the structure of it. I don't think that people should govern people. And people have to go with how they feel. That's just the choice of it all. People do give choice, although it may seem like you're given a choice with structure. I don't think that's totally wrong. I think we need structure. I think people need rules. Some people need rules a little bit more than others, right? And I think I know I did a video years back. I don't know whether I still have it up or not, but I may have privated it. But I was like, I'm never going to tell someone that's in religion to leave the religion, especially if it's not causing them bodily harm. If you're being abused, if someone's being abused, that's reasons to go, right? But if you feel like this is something that you want in your life and something that you need, by all means, go ahead. That's your choice, right? But it's not something that you should impose on other people, And there is, I think I said this to someone a while back, there are so many rules in the Bible. I'm not going to say I'm not going to say people can't follow them, right? But I can say it's hard for the average person to follow them, right? That's why there's grace, right? Extended to everyone, because that's the whole purpose. That's the whole premise of Christianity, right? Is that over time, if you study the Bible at all, most people have fallen. That's why the grace is there. Because if you're going to fall, which most people do, there is a backup plan. There's a plan B, right? So, I don't know. It was just a very interesting movie. I thought when I watched it, I said one of them will not survive. It wasn't clear which one, because you can see yourself in both sisters, right? You can see yourself in Sister Paxton, like being like a new person, being fresh, being new in faith, not really knowing how to handle different personality types, and not really being experienced. She was going with her gut more maybe than Sister Barnes, because Sister Paxton was like I said, more fresh. Like, she goes with her feeling, right? She's so nice and sweet, right? Sister Barnes was a little bit more experienced. Her faith was a little bit more solidified. She was the one that her dad had passed, and although her dad had passed, she could have made a decision at some point not to believe in God, but she still did, right? She still had her faith intact until the end, right? So you can see yourself in both. So it was hard to figure out like who was who, right? But Sister Barnes was also one that had the IUD in her arm, right? And you wouldn't even think that she would have needed it, because she was someone, they were both seemed really pure, right? But obviously maybe she was getting into things that she wouldn't want anyone to know about, and that happens in a lot of religions. There are going to be people that you think are squeaky clean and they don't get into anything. And they're, and of course people hide it because they fear being judged. Like there are churches that don't want to talk to you if you participate in certain activities, right? So of course she would keep it under wraps. So it doesn't mean that her faith was any less strong because maybe she had extramarital sex, right? So I like, it was so many like different things that you can take from this movie. It was almost like disbelief. He would have played with them. Belief. He still played with them, obviously. It went down the steps of the belief part, right? Sister Barnes died in her faith. She died going down those steps to belief. What if she would have died going down the steps of disbelief? Would her soul be saved? Those are questions, right? It was a very good movie. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. It was a very good movie. I'm curious to know how Sister Paxton will be changed after this experience, right? Very curious to know how she would be changed. I would also be curious to know the women that were locked in that basement, how their lives would be changed moving forward. Because they've been tortured and they've been in this basement. They weren't even young girls anymore. Typically with Latter-dayers, of course, I don't know if he had other faiths locked in his basement, right? But typically with the Latter-day Saints, they choose young people for a reason, right? I don't know exactly what the reason is, but they purposefully choose young people. I have been approached by young girls and young men. They typically choose younger people when they do their preaching. I have been approached by them, and they typically are to me, they seem very inexperienced because they're so young. They don't have the life experience to really talk to me. And that's my, in my experience. Of course, maybe I haven't met the right Latter-day Saint people. But they were always really, really young. So I was like, they really can't tell me anything. They don't really have anything for me to read. Like, they gave him material. In the movie, they gave Mr. Reed material. I've never gotten any material from them outside of a business card with their UPC symbol or something on it to scan. But they typically don't really preach the way witnesses do. But even witnesses, they have their own religious fallacies, I would just be curious to know who was in the basement, what their faith was, and how their faith will be changed when they get out. Because clearly, Sister Paxton survived, right? And she's clearly gonna, like she told them when she first got in that basement, I'm gonna help y'all. Even though I didn't know how she was gonna get out. I said, she gonna be in the boxes like them. So obviously she's gonna have someone go and get them out, right? So how would their faith be changed? Would it be changed? Because when you go through things like that, it can definitely make a belief system stronger. Like, I knew I would get out. I prayed for all these years I would get out, and I did, right? So they probably would be even stronger, right? Would they be stronger in their own faith, or would they want to actually, if they're not Latter-day Saints, would they become Latter-day Saints? Because Sister Paxton is a Latter-day Saint, and she's the one that essentially saved them, right? Or would they say their saving came from God himself, and they would just continue with their original faith? I had so many questions. I thought, like I said, it was a phenomenal movie. Hugh Grant did an awesome job. The girls did an awesome job in the movie. They're really, really, I felt they were really realistic and convincing as actresses. It was good. Go see it. Go see Heretic. Came out this year. It was awesome. It was awesome. So I'm gonna go home. I'm going to get ready for the week. It's gonna be Thanksgiving week coming up. So I have a 3-day week, and then I will be out, and I may actually come back some movies. I'm not sure if I'm going to see Gladiator 2 or Wicked or both. I don't know. So we will see. So, but yeah, I just wanted to let y'all know about this movie. This is going to probably be a little bit longer than what I typically do. But I will see y'all in the next video. Bye. there's one more thing I wanted to say before I leave. I just kind of pulled up. I just remember something. This is a good movie for anyone that goes to people's houses that you don't know in general, okay? There are not just religious people that do door-to-door preaching, okay? They're not the only ones. So home, like nurses do home, like they have to go and see people in their homes sometimes, and it may not be be someone they're familiar with. There are real estate agents that goes to people's houses. There's parole officers that go to people's houses, social workers that go to people's houses. There are different people that do that kind of stuff, and so you just have to be on your P's and Q's. I would definitely encourage anyone that goes to people's houses to just make sure you take certain precautions. Number one, tell people where you're going. Although in this particular movie, the church knew where they were going, but they weren't it just seemed like he, the person that was looking for them, he wasn't really clear where exactly they were. And then Mr. Reed had moved their bikes, so the bikes weren't at the front where the house was, so he didn't really know. But I would have they may have to, I think there should be a rule. If you know someone's going at a certain house and that person does not contact you, just have the police to show up, okay? The same thing with other people that have to go to people's houses. If that person doesn't tell you that they left, I don't know if that would cause too many phone calls or whatever, but there should be a general consensus, hey, we don't hear from you by this time, then we're sending someone to come get you, or figure out what's going on. But I think that's a good rule to have. I've been in situations where I used to work in fields, where I had to do that kind of stuff. I've done a short stint. It wasn't a long time, but I did a short stint as a home health aide, or not even a home health aide, maybe a personal care attendant. And I was in between jobs or whatever, and there was this one lady I went to. She had a huge house. She lived alone, but her house was huge, okay? And she had it was an old house. And I remember, so she had it was big. I used to live in a really, really big house when I was a kid. It was a 6-bedroom house. It had a big living room. It had a big dining room. It had a big kitchen. And then there was a broom off the back of the kitchen. It was huge. But this house, in my mind, it was even bigger than that house. Because this lady, in my parents' house when I was growing up, that living room could not have been a bedroom. How this house was set up, she, you would go in the, let's say this is the doorway. On the left side was the dining room, kitchen, back room. But this side right here was a whole bedroom. There were no bedrooms in my parents' first floor. But it was huge. But anyway, all that to say is that it's not easy if someone really, 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 of course, it's possible but not probable that this stuff can happen. But just in general, let's say worst case scenario, it ain't hard for someone to kind of do some stuff like that. I never forget, back in the day, I had someone trying to get me in their basement, and I'm like, I don't want to see your basement, and I was working. But I didn't need to see the basement, but it's not hard to, be naive to certain things, or, just want to even be polite. And someone said, hey, come on, I want to show you this, and just slam the door behind you, right? So I think this is a good movie for, number one, door-to-door people that go in people's houses that you may not know. And also, for certain professionals. Just don't, let someone know if you're going to do anything. Or if you feel hey, I'm just going to go take a quick, something, check on somebody, whatever it is, that somebody knows where you are. And that if you don't show up, this is your last location. So hey, I'm going to call you as soon as I leave. I'm not going to go nowhere until I call you. And then that person knows that it's not like you left and went somewhere else. They know in particular, if I don't, I'm going to call you as soon as I leave this house. I'm not going nowhere else until after I leave this house, and I'll call you. And if I don't call you, no, I did not leave this location. Yeah, it was just a good movie. Like I said, it was a good movie, but I just wanted to have those last thoughts. So I'm going to leave for real right now. But take care and have a good rest of your day. I'll see ya. Bye-bye.